Right, so to begin with, as we always do, just come into our basic setup, our basic posture. Think about how we stand and the muscles we use to maintain our perfect posture. So the heels can be placed just under the hips, all 10 toes pointed forward, and let your weight mainly sit back into the heels. Sometimes the weight rolls forward into the toes, and that tends to over-engage your quads, your hip flexors. As you bring your weight back into the heels, it brings a little bit more activation to our glutes and hamstrings. Now just allow the knees to soften and relax, just so you're taking the lock off the knee joints. As you rise, as you come up tall, so as you breathe, you're going to breathe in all the way up the length of your spine, so you're making yourself a little bit taller, and have that feeling that you're pulling the crown of the head to the ceiling. A little string attached to the head and it's drawing you upwards. You're going to try and maintain that nice lengthened feeling. As the shoulders roll back and down towards the back pockets, your palms turn into your thighs. Think about the ribs just gently drop down, and then the chin gently tucks in. So keeping the head and the rib cage in place, we're going to come into our pelvic tilt. Think about your hip bones. You're going to try and point them upwards towards the ceiling, and then gently down towards the ground. Now as you're starting to just encourage a little bit of movement through the lower back, you're trying to get the length and the stillness through the upper back. Sometimes we're a little tight here, and what we tend to do then is get the upper back moving to compensate for the lack of movement in the lower back. So it's really important to try and stay tall, keep the ribs down, and just think about drawing the tailbone under, so you physically feel your pelvis draws away from your bottom rib. And it just lengthens that distance in the lower back, that space between the ribs and the hips. Also, as you're doing this, you're starting to use your out breath and drawing your belly button towards the spine. Little breath in as you release. And this time as you breathe out and tuck, you're going to try to maintain your little tuck. Hands again, just by your thighs. When you breathe in, keeping the rib cage down, just let the shoulders lift up towards the ears. And then let the shoulders just slide down towards your back pockets. Again, sometimes if you've not got that movement available around the shoulders, we tend to try and use the back to get the shoulders moving. So even if the movement is really, really small, keep the movement small and more think about the stability and the alignment we maintain through the spine. Then we can start to add some heel raises. So you just let your heels gently lift off the ground. And as you pull the shoulder blades down, place your heels down. Breathe in as you rise, and then breathe out to lower. As you rise, feel that string pulling your head up towards the ceiling. And as you lower, try and maintain the feeling of your head being drawn up towards the ceiling. Or the sky in my greeter's case. Breathe in with the lift, and then breathe out to release. Now just thinking about the ankles, you lift the heels, try not to let the ankles roll apart. So we're trying to think about the alignment of the feet, and that just helps create a little bit more stability around the ankles. Into your last one, and then settle in here in the centre. Weight sits back into the heels, knees are soft, and you're in neutral spine, and then you're ready to ease into your side bends. So we're looking for some movement through the spine in a side-to-side action. And as you're moving through the spine, you're looking for stability through the hips and stillness through the legs. As you're bending from one side to the other, you're trying to make sure the weight doesn't rock from one foot to the other. Because if your weight rocks through your feet, your hips tend to sway. So again, as you drop the hips in the centre and keep the tailbone tucked, and then think about keeping the ear in line with the shoulder, and then trying to ease a little further down if you can. Now your option from here is to keep the hands by your thighs or bring your hands to your head. Drawing the shoulder blades again, down away from the ears. Just get the feeling of pointing your elbow towards the ceiling and the opposite elbow coming down towards the hip. And again, as you do this, you'll imagine that you're between two panes of glass, so you're moving directly from side to side. And that stops us being drawn forward and working into flexion through the spine. We're just trying to get that lateral flexion just from side to side. Okay, once more each way. And then with your last one, settling back into the centre. Pull the hands down and pull the shoulder blades down at the same time. Keeping your neutral spine, taking a breath in. You're going to lift one arm as high as you comfortably can without the ribs flaring. and then the opposite arm without the ribs flaring. Now again, sometimes, like I say, if we tight around your shoulder, we tend to use the back, and we get the feeling that we're lifting our arm higher. And when we do that, we don't actually increase the range of movement through the shoulder. So think about keeping the trunk of the body nice and still, and as you're lifting the arm, gently drawing the shoulder blade down and back in towards the ribs. Again, if your arm just comes to here, before your ribs flare, just stay with the movement, bringing the arm where you can keep the ribs down. Then we're going to start to add in the heel lift. So your left heel lifts as your right arm lifts, and then your left arm and your right heel. As you lift the heel, you're coming onto the ball of your foot, and you're trying to avoid the weight rolling onto your little toes. Whenever you feel ready, you can start to alternate. So you stay at the top and then alternate from one side over to the other. Now again, think about where the weight goes in the feet. So you're pushing the knees forward, almost in line with your big toe. And then you think about the hips. So you try not to let the hips again start to rock. Keep gently tucking under with the bottom. Breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Try now to keep the heels off the floor if you can. Keeping the knees soft. And 2 more each side. Chin nodded in. And then with your last one, just letting it all come back down into the centre. Roll back with the shoulders. Into tandem stance, so your right foot in front of your left. Thinking again about the distance between the ribs and hips. So you tuck under with the bottom. Slightly draw the ribs down towards the hips, so you've got that nice alignment through the spine, and float the arms forward. Now, when you bring the arms forward, you don't want to pull your shoulders forward with the ears, so pull the shoulders back, down, and then tuck back in with the chin. Your right arm pulls back, you're going to open, and then bring it back into the centre. Now, we're doing this in tandem stance, so it challenges our balance at the same time. But if you prefer, and you just want to work with the rotation through the upper body, you are allowed to put your feet back under your hips in set position. Now, as we move through the upper body for the rotation, think about the hips. Your headlights, your hip bones, firmly fixed to the front. So when you pull the arm back, you're not allowing the pelvis to turn. To help keep the pelvis still, keep the femur drawing the tailbone softly down towards the heels, and that keeps the hip bones facing forward rather than down to the ground and letting the lower back arch. And it also helps to pull the tummy muscles in at the same time. Now think about your weight, that must be evenly placed through both feet. It's a little easier to sit into the back foot sometimes. So again, you keep the weight evenly placed, you then feel a little bit more challenge with your balance. One last time on each side. So you're going to finish with your last one to your left. And then stay here. Bring your hands down and take a hold of your hip bones. So from tandem stance, you're going to bring your foot back into set position. Little tip forward and gently tucking the tailbone under. As if you're on a scooter, you're just going to push your right leg back. So your left knee stays soft. As you extend the leg behind, a gentle squeeze into the bottom and trying to really straighten the leg. Sometimes we try and keep looking forward. And when we do this, you can see how it makes the back arch and the tummy muscles push forward. So again, let the ribs come down and have that little hinge forward. Breathe out as you push away into that back leg and still keeping your left knee relaxed. And then you can add in the arms, double arm float, and then back into the centre. Breathing out, and a breath in. As the arms lift, the shoulders stay down. You can allow the arms to come a little higher. But if you're allowing the arms again to come higher, think about the ribs. So try not to let the ribs flare again. Also feeling the work in the standing leg around the hip. And that's where the stability muscles start to work quite hard. Twice more. Breathing as you come to the centre and out as you extend, and then step your feet back together. Perfect. Now your left foot in front of your right, back to your tandem stance, and you're trying to get the big toe to sit in the centre of your heel. easier, feet a little bit wider. Neutral spine, ribs down, tummy gently drawn in. So draw the shoulders down and float the arms up. So as you float the arms up, the shoulders still stay in set position. And then you're pulling the right arm back, opening, and then coming back into the middle. And almost get the feeling that you're dragging your hand through water. Just create a little bit of resistance as you bring the hand back into the centre. And again, sometimes we draw the arm back, we have a tendency to lean back. And if you lean back, that lengthens that distance between the ribs and hips. And whenever you lengthen that distance between the ribs and hips, you lengthen your tummy muscles and you compress your lower back. So again, trying to think about staying tall as if you've got a pole at the back of your t-shirt and your upper body is physically pivoting around that pole. Thinking about the weight even through both feet. Strong out breath as you ease back into the centre. In through the nose as you just slide the elbow by the ribs. Out through the mouth as you sweep the hand back into the centre. And again, one more each way. Knees are relaxed, tailbones gently tucked, and then you can go for a little ride on your scooter this time. So the hands come down, take a hold of your hips, step the feet back to hip distance and take a little tip forward. Now when you tip forward, you don't want to lean forward here, you want to bend your knees first and then your bottom slightly sit back. Then when you're ready, just pushing your left leg back. You can simply just slide it along the floor and you're brushing the ball of your foot along the ground. Right knee relaxed. Breath in as you bring the leg forward and then the out breath as you reach behind. And again, thinking about the ribs as you extend the leg, trying to keep that little tip forward so you're holding your neutral spine all the way through. Then you can add in the arms. So it's as the leg pushes back, the arms sweep forward, take a breath in, little hold. Out breath when you're ready. In breath to the centre. And again, don't think about lifting the arms too high. Think about keeping the alignment of your spine. So quite easy to lift the arms really high, but lose neutral spine and lengthen the tummy muscles. Trying to keep the tummy muscles connected. Hopefully feeling the weight around your right hip. A little harder is not to put the foot back on the floor. Just stay on that little hover. Slow breath in and a strong breath as you extend. And two more. Breathe out through the mouth. And then step both feet in under the hips. So back into set position. We're going to take the feet a little bit wider than the hips and we're going to come into our squats. So the upper body is really important when we do our squats. So turn your palms in, we squeeze the shoulder blades together. We're going to come down to the squat and lift the arms. Come halfway up, down, and then all the way up. So again, hips back first, down, halfway up, down, and then all the way up. Now as you go into the squats, your knees just tracking in line with the toes. And as you come down to the squat, try not to keep the head looking forward because again, it puts the back in this uncomfortable position. Keep your chin nodded in and sit back into the hips so you've got that nice alignment through the spine and you feel a connection through your core. Sometimes it helps to stop at the bottom, reach up the tailbone, come halfway up, down, and then all the way up. Shoulders are relaxed, chin's nodded in, and you're really trying to push your weight back into your bottom as if there's a chair behind. Slowly easing back, halfway up, down, and then all the way up. Now again, the knees might start to collapse in a little, and that just means sometimes the inner thighs are stronger and they're trying to stabilise the knees. But you can see when your glute medius are weak and the inner thighs try and stabilise your knees, they actually pull them out of alignment and they can wear into a different part of the knees. So we're always trying to keep the outer thighs quite strong and switched on to maintain the alignment of the knees. So again, it keeps that work through the outer thighs at the same time. So I'm going to go with 4 more here. Keep the knees out towards the little toes. And every time you rise, nice strong posture. Hips back under shoulders. Breathing in, out, in, out. Last time. So hopefully feel a little bit of work there into your thighs. Okay, from here you're going to take your right leg back, front knee over the heel, hands onto the hips, bend your back knee. Push out the front heel and just tip. So back knee down to the floor, back leg straightens as you tip forward. Now when you do tip forward, you've got the alignment from the ankle up to the ear. So you don't want to drop into your upper body. Shoulders above hips, back leg straight as you hinge forward. Front knee slightly out towards that little toe and it stays over the heel. Now tuck under with your tailbone and find the stretch here and then hinge forward as you rise. Then you can lift that back leg. So breathe out, little lift. Breathe in, ease down. Out through the mouth, in through the nose. Shoulders above hips, press down through the front heel. So when you tip forward, you're avoiding letting the weight roll into the toes. You're starting to feel the work, again into that left hip, into that left buttock, and then you can add in the arms again. So your hands come down by your thighs, and just take it into that double arm float. Remember when you do the double arm float, we're still holding the shoulder blades back in set position, and trying to get a little deeper into the lunge, so again you get your stretch through the hip flexor. Give me 2 more. Stay at the top. So hold in here, bring the knee in, and a nice big extension. So there's lots of work now around that left hip. We're just going to do 8 here, and as we're extending the arms and legs, using the out breath, engaging your core. Last 3, 2, and your 1. And then step your feet back in. And again, just a little bit wider in the hips for your squats again. So knees out over toes, tailbone tucks. Back down to your squat. Halfway up, down, all the way up. And if you want to do at the bottom, you can lift the heels as you rise to the top. So you come down, halfway, down, and lift the heels here. If you prefer, you can stay with the feet flat on the ground. We've got 7 left. Think about neutral as you sit back into the squat. Little tuck under the tailbone still. Think about the alignment of the knees. So we're keeping the knees out towards those little toes. And if you glance down, you should see your big toes to the inside of your knees. Little breath in as you sit back. Strong out breath, squeeze your glutes and lift the heels if you can. 3 to go. Keeping shoulders relaxed and down. 1 last time. And then we're going to come into this lunge on the other side. So feet land, left foot steps back, and when it steps back, just back to hip distance. Hands on the hips and really square the hips to the front. Shoulders come back and knees slightly out. Just keep the hands on the hips to begin. Ease into that back knee. Feel the stretch here, and then lean forward, keep the foot on the ground. Breathe in, find the stretch. Breathe out, weight stays in the heel as you tip forward. And as you tip forward, you press down through that front heel, and that starts to bring some activation into our glutes. Breathe in, shoulders above hips. On your next one, you can add the lift. Always aiming to keep the front knee stacked over the heel, especially when you go down here. Then when you tip forward, you're in a perfect position to press down to the heel and activate those glutes again. And when you're ready, hands can come by your thighs, breathing out with a reach, breath in as you sink. Trying to slightly relax through the toes. Easier said than done when you come into your lift, but just trying to keep the weight of the push through the heel is going to bring so much more work and stability into your glutes. 2 more. Try not to lock out the knee, hold at the top, bring the left knee in, and then we extend all the way through the back of the body. Again, you can go to that first movement with the scooter, where you just slide your foot and back in. Or again, trying to go with that big extension, squeezing the shoulder blades back. Breathing out so you brace and engage your core with the extension. Last one. And then step in your feet together. So the feet come back under the hips, reset our posture. I put my trousers back up and we're all good. We're going to take the feet wide, toes to the diagonal, knees out to little toes and your tailbone tucked. Hands down just by your thighs. Sink into a squat. We're going to take a side bend at the bottom and then push up through both heels. So knees over toes, big toes to the inside of the knees. And as you move the upper body, trying to keep the lower body nice and still. In the wide squat, it sometimes puts us in a much better position to be able to stay more upright. If you find that you're tipping forward when you come down to this squat, don't go as low. Just sit into the hips a little, and you're trying to let your arm come towards your ear, and then up nice and tall in the middle. Bit by bit, you can allow yourself to sit a little bit lower. And I'm really aware that as you're moving with the upper body, the hips aren't dropping backwards or forwards. So you get a nice stretch into the spine, and also a nice little bit of work into your waist. We're going to go with 4 more. Breathing in, out to reach, breath in, out to reach, breath in, out to rise. Knees push outwards, tailbone stays tucked, and just let your ear tip towards your shoulder. 2 more. We're going to come down after this, but it's not going to be any easier when we lie down, as you always know. 1 more time. We're going to have a little bit of a roll through the spine next, and we're going to come from our roll, walking into a plank. So we're going to bring the legs in, feet coming into the hips, hands by your thighs. From here, keep the knees soft, tailbone tucks. Just let the chin nod in and allow your hands to roll towards your knees, trying to keep a neutral spine. And then with the chin tucked in, rolling through the upper back, and then rolling the shoulders back. Breathing in, rolling forwards, just to the kneecaps with the fingertips, and then breathing out and rising. Option, staying to the knees. Or once you've got to the knees, you can allow yourself to roll a little further, and then thinking about restacking the spine as you rise. Now if you're like me, you can be quite flexible through the upper back. I'm a little less flexible here. So as I roll down, I'm really trying to think about letting one vertebrae go and then the next. And I've got about 2 or 3 here. I have to really work quite hard to get moving. So don't rush the movement. Just try and think about the head, the chin coming in, the neck lengthening, the tailbone staying tucked as long as you can. And on the rise, the tailbone scooping under first, and each vertebrae restacking. Now we're going to come from here into our plank position. So once you've rolled forwards, you might want to bend your knees more so you can bring your hands in front of your feet. You're going to walk your hands forward without rocking your hips. Once you've got your hands forward, shoulders come over the heels of the hands into a plank position. Now from here, we're going to walk back, one hand and the other. If you struggle with this one, don't do the roll up, you can just walk backwards and forwards to your plank. So I've got 4 more of these to do, which is going to be very difficult for me now. I think I've confused the dog because I've done the roll ups earlier. She thinks it's walkie time. I think it's maybe because I said walk the hands forward, someone's got a little bit excited. She wants to do the down dog instead. Where's the up dog? Where's the down dog? And let's come in to our last 3. Again, trying to find that control through the spine. As you walk the hands forwards, try not to let the feet or the hips rock. And then once the hands are forward, push the shoulders forward up the heels of your hands. And then pull back up with the hips. And walk each hand back, one then the next. Grow tall. You're literally getting all the muscles working around the shoulders. You're getting all the muscles working to stabilise your core and to support your spine as you come forward into the plank. And as you're walking back, we're working on the hip stability, so we're not letting the hips rock or swing from side to side. This is your last one, and for this one you can actually stay down at the bottom. As you're walking forwards, one hand then the next, not letting the feet rock or the hips, and you're going to stay here in your plank, shoulders over the hands. Option, knees down. If your knees are lifted or knees are down, we're going to add a leg lift. We're going to go with 4 on each side. So at any point you need to, you can come to your knees, just extend one leg back, and then the other. Now whether you're on your knees or on your toes, you're trying not to let the shoulders collapse. You're holding the belly button towards the back, and then when you finish your last one, just simply pull the hips back to the heels. Then try and bring your hands back towards your feet and allow your chest to just soften down towards the thighs. Breathe in, try and open the ribs. So as you breathe in, it's like you're trying to create space between each rib. And as you breathe out, you allow yourself to sink a little further. And again, big breath in, spreading open the back of the ribs. And then breathing out and sinking back down. Perfect. Then we're going to bring the hands by your thighs. Chin tucks in and rolling back up through the spine. From here, we're going to come up onto our knees. Now, if you find it difficult being on your knees, your option is to come into a seated position here and work with the bow and arrow arms again. This is going to strengthen and stretch our quads and strengthen our glutes. When we did the bow and arrow arms, we're making sure the ribs don't pull away from the hips, and we've still got the alignment of the ear, the shoulder, the hip and the knee. Bow and arrow first, just draw your right arm back, then your left, and then your option is to ease back a little and then come forwards. When you ease back, you're not arching into the back, you're moving from the knees, swaying back and then forwards, breathing in and out. Think about the ribs, you've got your square, you've got the ribs holding down towards the hips. And your head turn from one side and back to the centre each time. Now think about the chin staying slightly nodded in. Sometimes that tendency to let the head go back. If the head goes back, then the ribs are going to be tempted to flare. So we've got to stay really strong and connected to our core. Squeezing the bottom to keep the hips nice and grounded. Breathing in as you ease back. Out breath to come forwards. One more each side. And then we're going to stay with the rotation. So you're going to bring your hands back to the floor. Walk your hands forward in box position, knees under the hips. Now press both hands into the floor. Allow your chest to sink towards the floor and then push yourself away. So again, allow your chest to sink and then push yourself away. Now we want to be midway between those 2 points. So we've not got the upper back rounding and we've not got the shoulders collapsing. Once you've found that midpoint position, you're going to press gently into your left hand. Your right hand threads under your left. Your head turns to the left and then you're going to draw the arm back and the shoulder blade. You're breathing in as you thread under and you're breathing out to pull back. Imagine you've got a tray of drinks balanced on your bottom, so you're not letting the hips get involved in the movement. As you're tucking under the tailbone, that's keeping your lower abdominal switched on, and that's helping to create stability for your pelvis. Now from here, if you want to add on, you're going to extend your left leg. So slide it back and then a lift. Breathing into the centre and then breathe out, turning the head to your right. And again, making sure you don't collapse down towards the floor as you thread the arm under your body. 4 left here. If you need to rest, can take a rest. Or you can just work with the arm. Or you can work just the leg. Give the arm a rest. 1 more time. And then bringing the knees back under the hips and both hands back under the shoulders. Sometimes our weight tends to roll back. So just be aware that you push your chin forward with the fingers, roll the shoulder blades back, collapse down, push up, collapse down and push up. And that itself is a really good exercise for waking up the stability muscles around the upper back. Staying midway this time, then your left hand when you're ready. Don't let that left shoulder collapse, just turn and look to your right, and then turn and look to your left. Breathing in as you thread under, and breathing out as you open. Now the ears and the shoulders stay in line. We're not letting the head drop below the shoulders. Now whenever you're ready, your right leg slides back. Slide, and then a little lift behind. And the reason we slide the leg back first is so we can get nice and straight, and then you can use the squeeze of your bottom to lift the leg. Now we're aware that when you lift the leg, you're not arching or collapsing into your tummy. So go for the length. Push back rather than up. Push away. Breathe in to come to the middle. Breathe out to lengthen. 2 left. Keep pressing down into your left hand. Shoulders stay nice and strong. Resting in the middle. Both hands back over the shoulders. Pull your hips back to your heels again. Gently walk the fingers forward. Let the head come down. Now so you can walk your hands a little further forward and let your hips sink back to your heels. Try and grip the floor and imagine you're trying to pull yourself forward with your fingertips. Now that brings a much deeper stretch around the shoulders. A nice reward for hard work. Walk your hands back when you're ready. Then come on to the back next. So in your own time, if you'd like to bring your feet forwards. So with the feet hip distance apart, hands can rest on your knees or under your thighs, and you're going to gently roll down through the spine. Position where your head's rested, the chin gently draws down towards the chest and shoulders relax down to the ground. Neutral position first, so give your pelvis a little tilt backwards and forwards, and it's the feeling that you're trying to get your hip bones to point to your head and then point to your knees. But as you're doing that, you're trying to keep the ribs still. So if you just pop one hand on your ribs, soften them down so you feel the back of your rib cage on the floor. Now try and tilt your hip bones towards the head and then back towards the knees without the rib cage lifting. You'll feel that your movement's a little bit smaller, but again you'll feel that you're having to really work through the upper abs to hold the rib cage in place. So just a couple more there in each direction. Breathe in as you point the hips to the knees. Breathing out as you point them up to the head. Settling midway between those 2 points. Now, keeping the ribs down, bring both hands onto your ribs and bring your knees and your feet together. Knee rolls, nice and easy. We're going to breathe in, roll both knees over to the right. As you roll the knees to the right, your left foot lifts off the floor so the edge of your feet stay together. As you breathe out, you pull your belly button back towards your spine. Ribs are still in position. Moving over to the left, breathing in. A little pause when you feel the stretch in the lower back and the waist. And then breathing out, pulling back with your belly button. Now, sometimes when we roll the knees across, they tend to stagger. So if you want to feel more stretch in the opposite side, when you roll the knees across, keep the top knee slightly pushed forward so the knee stays stacked. And just by simply pushing the knee further forward, you're going to bring more stretch into the lower back and more work available for your waist. Now again, just use a gentle in-breath as you lower the knees down. Out-breath. A little pause helps. You breathe in, pause at the bottom, push that top knee forward. Breathe out, draw the belly button back down towards your mat. Now if you want, you can hold, extend your top leg, and again almost feel like you're reaching that top leg forward. Bend the knee and then come back into the centre. So to the left, lengthen, back to the floor and into the centre. Breathing in, out, in and out. In through the nose, out through the mouth, gentle breath in, out to centre. Option, same movement with the knees above the hips. Knees are glued together. So when you roll to the side, you physically roll here onto your left hip. You feel your right buttock lifts away from the floor, but the back of the ribs and the shoulders stay nice and grounded. And again, when you extend that top leg, almost feel like you're reaching it a little further away. You can also start to turn your head in the opposite direction to your legs. But you're keeping the chin nodded in to keep the neck nice and long. And then you'll feel a little bit more rotation through the spine, a little bit more work through the waist. And if it's all too much, you can bring your feet back to the ground and just work with that first movement. Again, use the in-breath as you reach across. The out-breath back into the middle. Once more each way. And then you can place both feet back down on the ground. Feet back to being hip distance apart. Not too close to the bottom, so you're looking at about a 90-degree angle at the knees. Shoulders roll back, ribs hold down. When you're ready, knee lift, your right knee. Breath in to prepare. Out breath, your right knee lifts. In breath, it rests on an eggshell. Keep it on an eggshell as you lift your left knee, and then a breath in as you ease it down. So as we're moving the knees now, we're keeping the back in neutral. So as you lift your knee, you're trying to make sure that you're not physically tilting the pelvis back and pressing your lower back into the floor. You're trying to maintain that alignment of your spine, that set position between the ribs and the hips, and the supporting foot really light on the ground. Now this time as you lift your right knee, hold it, extend, and then lower it to the floor. Bring it back to the diagonal, and then knee above hip, and lower down onto the eggshell. Left knee lifts. Extend, flex your foot, and lower the foot towards the floor. Point the toe on the lift, knee comes above hip, and your foot back to the ground. In neutral position, all the way through. So we're gently holding that space again between the ribs and the hips. Now to make this really challenging, try when you bring your foot back down, just to rest really lightly on your big toe. So keep the heel off the ground this time. Flex the foot as you lower. Now it's when you lower that straight leg where you're going to feel you have to really work through your core. So when you extend the leg here, brace your tummy so that when you flex the foot and lower, that back's not trying to lift off the ground. So again, strength, stability through the trunk of the body. Resisting the weight of the legs. And once more each side after this one. And again, when you do those properly, they're so challenging. One more each side. So your last one on each side. So you're going to finish with the left. So you work both sides evenly. And you're not rushing. So as you move nice and slow, all those deeper muscles just get a chance to work for a little bit longer. And then rest, both feet down and flat. Hands just by your thighs. Upper abs next. So with the chin tucked in, if you tilt your head back and try and lift your head from here, the lift is coming from here. If you nod in the chin and hold that little orange or golf ball under your chin, and when you roll up, the roll comes to the spine and the lift comes from the upper abs and the neck isn't in this position. So what we're going to do is when we come down, we're going to come back to here rather than all the way to the floor. So if you tuck in your chin, little golf ball underneath the chin, take a breath in, you're still in your neutral spine, and you're going to breathe out and roll forward. Hold in here, lift in both arms, press both hands down, and roll back. Keep the chin in, don't go all the way down. Reach forward to the ankles, keep the ribs holding down towards the hips. And as you lift the arms, you're just trying to make sure those ribs stay in position here. Now again, that back isn't pressing into the floor. I think you've probably got a fair idea where we're going to go next. We're going to come back with the leg lifts. So that's the movement for the upper body. You've practiced the movement for the lower body. So let's try it now. As you rise, lift your right knee, extend your leg. As you lower the leg, lift the arms, bring it back into the centre and place it down. And again, reach forward and lift. Extend, flex the foot. As the leg lowers, the arms lift. You're looking forward towards your knees. And then as you place your foot down, this time, try to make sure you're not putting the foot heavily on the ground, maybe just onto your toe, keeping the heel lifted. Now again, once you're up at the top, think about those ribs holding quite strongly down towards the hips. Seeing how low you can take the leg without letting the ribs flare. Now a little bit harder. Stay at the top and do one on each side. So you're going to lift, lower, bring it into the centre, place it down. Lift the knee, extend, lower, bring it into the centre and roll back down. 4 more. Tucking the chin, look forward. Lift the arms, hold the arms still, bring the knee back above the hip and place the foot down. Left knee, extend, flexing the foot as you lower, knee back to 90, foot down and roll down. 3 left. Think about when you lift, pulling from the ribs. Keep the eye gaze forward. And each time you place the foot on the floor, so you can rest lightly on the toes. Only 2 left. But remember, you can just work with your legs or just your arms. So if you feel one's getting a little bit too much, you can take it out. When you're in that top position, think about keeping the chin nodded in, so it's keeping the strain out of the neck. This is your last one. Still not pressing through the foot on the floor. And then, as you roll down, you might want to bring both knees into your chest. And I've just looked at my watch and realised I'm getting a bit carried away now. Just give your knees a little roll around your hips, going in one direction and then the other direction. From here, we're going to roll over onto the hands and knees. So again, tuck in the chin, take a little roll up, take a roll over, hands come to shoulders and knees come to hips, because time has absolutely flown by as always. Shoulders roll back, tuck under your toes, and lift your knees. Now once you're here, again, like we did at the beginning, just walking the hands back, one then the next if you can. Bend the knees and bring the heels to the floor, and then bring the hands towards the toes. Almost hang the head. Let it gently drop towards the floor. Holding the belly button up to the back and taking a breath in. With the out breath, a restack through the spine. So your tailbone under, head is drawn to back. Each vertebra restacks. The head lifts and the shoulders again just melt right down away from your ears. A little tuck under the tailbone. Out from here, just lifting both hands. Turn your palms to the ceiling and press up to the ceiling. As you press up to the ceiling, let your ribs really lift away from your hips. Now try and push your hands over to the right, into the centre, and then your hands over to the left, keeping both feet anchored to the ground, back into the centre, and release the arms. Let the shoulders rise, and let them drop. And breathe in, and release. And applaud yourselves. Well, ladies and gents, that flew by, which is good.